we'll get right into it. All right. It is Monday, April 22nd, and welcome back to the Aftermath. I know we've had a little time off from the show, but we are back on the 22nd of April. So I'd like to welcome everybody back to the show. As always, I'm joined by the Alfred to my Bruce Wayne, my man BJ up in Tennessee. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Been all right, man. What's been new with you, man? We done had about a 3-week-long vacation, man. Is there anything I need to know about, man? Anything you got going on? Anything happen that you wanna talk about? You know what I mean? Anything happened that kind of caught your attention over the last 3 weeks, maybe?
Nothing really. It's kind of been like silent, really.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. Were you about to say something?
Like, nothing really has been going on, and to be honest, I could care. I don't even care about the Mueller report. Every time somebody talks about the Trump investigation, I clock out. I see it as I don't see no point in it, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree because I guess that was one of the good things about having some time off is because it kind of gives you a little bit of perspective, right? Like you know, we do a political show that's based in politics, pretty much, right? And you're in it like every single day, and you're watching all these news channels and you're watching all these developments. And I remember, we had the Jussie Smollett thing go on, and we had all these different things go on. And it's like you're in the middle of it, and it's like you're trying to be impartial and you're trying to be fair and you're trying to go through a lot of these different things. But I've come to some pretty obvious realizations, some pretty easy conclusions lately. The first one being, we've said it on this show plenty of times. We said that before the Mueller report even had came out, that it didn't really matter what it said because we knew what the result was going to be. Either A, they're going to find something, they're going to try to impeach him, or B, they're not going to find anything and they're going to move on to something else and try to figure out a way to start another investigation or to do something else. And I think the reason why I've said it plenty of times on this show that this is the reason why President Trump is such a conversation stopper, right? Because there's no way that you can break all of this stuff down and you say you want certain things, right? Like there are a lot of different things that a lot of people say they want from their government, that they say they want from their politicians, the president, Washington D.C. as a whole, right? If you break down all those different things, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's like you want your person doing exactly what you want them to do, or they don't even really have to do what you want them to do. They just have to be your person. Like, for example, right? Like, I'm gonna ask you a question. So remember when the Chicago district attorney dropped all the charges on Jussie Smollett?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. Because they dropped the charges, do you now feel that he's innocent?
Nope.
Exactly my point. You see what I'm saying? So it has, but to me, in that situation, there was a lot more evidence that pointed directly to him being guilty. So I can understand a little bit more impartiality. What I'll point to is I'll go back in history. Like I'll start with President Clinton, right? Because that's what a lot of people want to make the comparison to. And I feel that President Clinton wasn't liked by Republicans as well. So a lot of people will say that he deserved to be impeached because he lied under oath, right? And once again, I'll say maybe not. If he lied about having an affair, then I put it to you like this: what was he lying about? Was he lying about something that was his own personal life or whatever, or was he lying about something, a matter of national security? Go ahead.
Yeah, looking back on it, like Clinton didn't really do anything that required you to be impeached. Like I can see if he's like giving state secrets to foreign governments and all that, but
Correct.
cheating on your wife has nothing to do with being president. Like
Right, but
I don't like him personally because he cheated on his wife, but
right.
it has nothing to do with him being the president. Like, nothing at all.
Right. Well, I mean, he cheated on Hillary, so I guess it's kind of forgivable in my eyes. But you know,
It's like were they really even married? Was it like
yeah,
it was just a political marriage? Like
yeah. I mean, well, but this once again goes back to my point, right? So you can take the parallel with Bill Clinton, and you can say, should Bill Clinton have been impeached for lying about cheating on his wife, or he didn't necessarily lie. He just didn't feel the extent of his sexual relationship with Monica Lewinsky was deemed sex. You know what I'm saying? So we can draw a gray area all we want, but if you feel that somebody should get impeached about lying about, basically, having a little, whatever you want to call it, a little affair in the White House, and lying about it, then I don't never feel like that was an impeachable offense. But what you do have is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Bill Clinton did testify before Congress. And he did testify before Congress saying that what he was saying was the truth. So I will give, let's say if I give the Mueller investigation a 0 for merit, right? Then I would give the Bill Clinton thing a 1. Because the fact you can say, oh, well, he lied in front of Congress, he should be impeached. Whatever. I feel like that's his own personal business.
People lie in front of Congress all the time.
Correct. But I mean, I would have to go back and look at that some more. But I feel like, how they say history has a funny way of repeating itself. Yeah. I feel like we're now in that zone. And there is no longer what we call a burden of proof, right? Like the burden of proof can be like the judicial system, but it's only the burden of proof, or it's only like you will agree with the judicial system if the judicial system gives you that verdict that you want, right? Like another obvious example is Bill Cosby. How many people say, oh, well, Bill Cosby was framed because he was trying to buy a major network. So they needed.
I heard that too. I heard that theory too.
See, like there's all these different, I'm not even saying, I mean, like I said, I can't say whether it's true or not. I'm just saying things I've heard. So all of a sudden you hear that Bill Cosby was framed, or that they just started bringing all this heat on him because he wanted to buy one of the major networks. So to get him out of the way, you send him to jail, you get women to come out of woodworks, whatever the case may be. And they destroyed this man's life. Or you could say he destroyed their life if it's true. However you want to look at it. But once again.
And that could be true. But, the most important thing is evidence.
Right. And you still have people who come out and will defend Bill Cosby and say he got a raw deal and say that he's innocent. The same people who will still come out and say Jussie Smollett was found innocent, right? Because he dropped all the charges. So apparently everything he said was still true, even though nobody can still explain to me how white Trump supporters, beat him up. And apparently somehow they turned into, these Nigerians. There's still no way that we can explain that. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. There's still too many holes in the story when it comes to Jussie Smollett. And like I said, I'm going to be biased because I felt he was lying. And people will say, well, Trump lies all the time. And I say, well, it is.
Every president lies.
Right. But at the same time, I'm saying, okay, once again, let's talk about what he's being convicted with. To say every president tells the truth, it's a dumb thing. But what I'm talking about is the charges that were levied against him. Did he lie about colluding with Russia? Did he lie about using Russian agents or whatever the case may be to somehow steal an election, those type of things? Did he lie about what pertains to the charge? I'm not here to talk about what he lies about on a daily basis. That's just ridiculous. Because if he lied, I'm never going to defend a lie. I'm not going to go, oh, well, if he lied, he lied. What I'm saying is, did he lie about the charge that was a 2-year investigation? And the answer to that question, based on the Mueller report, is no. You see what I'm saying? So if you look at it like you start going down the line, same thing. You could bring R. Kelly into this, right? Did R. Kelly lie? He was found not guilty the first time. So does that mean that he's innocent? Does that mean that he's not guilty? Does that mean that he didn't do it? The bottom line is we'll never know, right? So it's a situation where we're going to formulate our own opinions and our own biases based on whether or not we like the person. So the issue with Trump is because he's so hated, and on the opposite side, he's so well liked. And you could say the same thing with Obama. He was hated as well, but he was also very well liked as well. But this is, to me, where I put the whole Russia collusion thing. And to me, it's funny and it's ironic. And I always like to say is, if you put the shoe on the other foot, like, for example, let's say for example, I'm just gonna just throw this out there. Okay, R. Kelly, because he's had a documentary about him, and because of the previous allegations, people would be leaning more not believing him, towards taking his music off the radio, towards pretty much just casting him aside. Would you agree?
No.
You don't think that R. Kelly has pretty much, I'm talking about, like, do you still hear R. Kelly's music on the radio in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hear it down here. And I know we got Ricky Smiley, we have Steve Harvey, we have Tom Joyner. So we have some of the nationally syndicated broadcasts, and I don't hear them. Maybe they might still play them a little bit on the local ones, but I think that he's pretty much just been, like, taken out of the loop. You know, I haven't heard about any concerts with R. Kelly. I think they pretty much tried to blackball him, if you will.
Yeah. Before
the trial even goes down. But but what I'm saying is, I believe R. Kelly developed some quote unquote some bad blood from the last incident. That's what I mean. I don't mean like the R. Kelly fans left him. I'm saying that based on the last investigation and trial that he had, and then basically after the Netflix, or was it Netflix or whatever, the Surviving R. Kelly came out, then I feel like that pushed people away, a lot of people, from trying to defend R. Kelly. That's what I mean. But I feel like it goes because he's got the previous history, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is just an example. But let's say we heard the same things about someone who I believe is genuinely liked by almost everyone, or pretty much everyone. Let's say if we had the same allegations against Bruno Mars, do you think it would go the same way?
I don't know.
I don't think it would. I think people would jump out to defend him. I think they would jump out to say all these women are liars and this, and this. And I think his music will continue to be on the radio without even any interruption, because I feel like it's because he has a more likable persona. You know what I mean? Like his whole thing about him is this fun, kind of, he's really, really talented. And he's very well received. And plus he's a crossover artist as well. So because he's kind of crossed over into both, and he's kind of hitting everybody, because pretty much R. Kelly is pretty much like I call him more like a black hip hop artist. You know what I mean? White people know who R. Kelly is, but I feel like R. Kelly is like just for like black people mostly. You know what I mean? But Bruno Mars, since he's kind of crossed over, he's now kind of for everybody. So if these allegations were coming out against Bruno Mars, I personally would not want to believe they were true.
Yeah,
from the get-go.
His genre is more pop.
Correct. But I just feel like because of his overwhelming popularity, you wouldn't want it to be true. But
So,
go ahead.
to be honest, with those, I don't really know. I don't really know which way I would go. Like, have you heard about? This is an example. Have you heard about those rumors that Martin Luther King Jr. He went around he cheated on his wife a whole bunch of times while he was on the trail. Have you heard about those?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if those are rumors. I pretty much think those are confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
It's
Yeah,
like
I mean, it was pretty much well known that Martin Luther King did cheat on his wife, and it's a possibility that he does have some illegitimate children out there. But I mean, I don't really feel like those. That's like a new story. I mean, I've heard about that for a long time.
yeah, and I really admire Martin Luther King, but I didn't like even when I heard it, I didn't like say, "Oh, that didn't happen." You know, I just said maybe it could have happened. So like with those and with sex crimes and stuff like it's kind of hard to prove them, but
Right, and then I think we need to make sure there's a the distinction there. There's a difference between like a
oh
sex
yeah, okay, I get what you're
and an
saying.
infidelity. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like what Martin Luther King did, if he was just cheating on his wife, then does that make him any less of a greater man? Does it make him any less of a preacher? You could
no,
possibly go into down that road, but at the same time, you have to look at it like, does it change anything that he did? And
no,
that's the way,
not
like,
really.
right? And see, this is the way I kind of look at this whole thing because to me, I feel like, okay, you hate Trump, so what really bothers me about this is the fact that just because it's him, and this might sound, I mean, it don't even sound crazy, but I'm to the point now where I am almost ready to move to somebody else, only because I feel like we can't get anything done or we can't get anything accomplished because these people hate him so much. They're willing to just not do anything and just focus on getting him out of office.
To be honest, I kind of agree. Like, cause my whole stance on this is we're only gonna have Trump for what maybe 2 or 6 years,
Two or six more years, right?
and he's only gonna be here for a short time. We gotta start thinking long term. Like Trump is
Right.
short term. Like
But
Trump could do a whole bunch of good stuff, and then the next president out here can undo all that. Like Trump did to Obama. It could easily happen.
it could. And see, this is my thing. And this is what I mean. I kind of sit back and I think about and I sit there and I say, right now, when the even before the Mueller report was finished, all I heard politicians, mostly on the Democratic side, but even some Republicans joined in, and they were saying we gotta create some legislation to protect the Mueller investigation. We've got to protect the Mueller investigation. We gotta, this is one of the most important investigations in American history, and we got to make sure that Trump can't go outside the powers of the executive branch to bring this investigation to an end. And all I heard was protect Mueller. Mueller is important. I heard, some of these Hollywood people in Hollywood come out and talk about how they love Bob Mueller and how, even some of these women were like, oh, I think he's hot, about this, he's just doing a great job. And, oh, I can't wait until he just all comes down on Trump. And I would watch CNN and they used to love using terms like the walls are closing in. And, you know what I mean? It was supposed to be this great climax of Trump being let out of the White House in handcuffs, and it never happened.
And that was never ever gonna even happen.
I mean, but I think people were foolish to believe that. But my thing is this: we had a 2 year long investigation, and everybody says, "Well, let's go back." And I hate when people go back and they say, "Well, let's look at all the indictments we had." It still doesn't matter because it's still not what you originally set out for. If you feel like, you know what I'm saying, like Bob Manafort, and we don't even know if they're still going to mess with Roger Stone. I haven't even kept up with it because it's not important anymore now. So Roger Stone might just get let go now because nobody cares. Michael Cohen, if you really feel, and maybe sending the former, what's the general's name? Michael Flynn, sending Michael Flynn to jail for lying to the FBI, whatever the case may be. If you feel like that was worth it to get those 3 or 4 guys, 2 years of the most, to me, the most divisive, just ridiculous story to begin with. But like the fact that this has been the focus of the media for like 2 years, and we finally finished, right? And we're finally thinking it's going to come to an end. And we released the report, right? And not just a full report. People say, well, I want to see the full report. But my question to you is, I thought we were supposed to trust Bob Mueller. You know, that's what they started calling him, Trust Bob, right? We love Bob. Not even calling the man by his full name, Robert, right?
I got to ask a question on that. Why are all these reports hundreds of pages, over 500 pages long? I don't get that.
I mean, well, I honestly, I would say, I put it to you like this. I just think about going back when I was in school, and my teacher would give me a month to do a book report, and she would expect it to be like, 10 pages long, or do a report or do some sort of term paper, right? Then she would expect it to be like, 10 to 15 pages long. And I only had a month to complete it. So what I'm figuring out is, okay, well, if I multiply that times 24, that should be 250 pages. But that's just me by myself. Plus, I have all these other agents bringing all this other information and compiling them together. It should be 500 to at least 1,000 pages, in my opinion, just because this is what they've been spending 2 years on. If the report was like 5 pages, you'd be like, well, damn, we really didn't get our money's worth. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I get what you're saying.
But like I said, my major issue with the whole reporting and all the other things that's going on is it puts you in a situation where you're sitting there saying, I thought we were supposed to trust. Remember, everybody came out against him and said, he's caused people to distrust the intelligence community. He doesn't trust law enforcement. And then people, on the conservative side came out and said, oh, well, the FBI is a fraud. The FBI is a sham. Why are these people still working here? But now, because it says what they wanted to say, you know what? We trust the Mueller report because it said it said pretty much what we thought it was going to say the whole time. And then everybody on the other side says, well, there's a lot of redactions here. I need to see the full thing. And we need to see if Congress can reopen an investigation. I'm just sitting there saying, see, this is my problem right here. People are saying it's not political. What I'm saying is the FBI supposedly did their job. I thought the entire investigation was a sham from the beginning because I'm not a stupid individual. The same way, I look at it like this. A lot of people accuse President Obama of not being born here, right? So all I can say is if in his second year in 2010, you found out that George Bush had launched this investigation to basically find out whether or not he was an American or a Kenyan or whatever the case may be. And he got investigated from day one in office. And then 2 years later, we come to find out and they say, hey, you know what? Obama's an American citizen. He's not a Kenyan, right? And 2 years later, that's what we find out. But then after we find out he's not a Kenyan, you go and the Republicans come out and say, well, okay, so even though he might be an American citizen based on this 2-year investigation, we still need let's not take impeachment off the table yet because maybe he obstructed justice. And then it's just like, here we go again. Like, I'm tired of my news cycles not talking about, to me, things that are important. Yesterday on Easter Sunday, there was a massive attack in, Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
A lot of churches were attacked. And we can say because they were churches, we would want to say maybe the people inside of them were Christians. So there were multiple attacks on Christians yesterday. and there were multiple attacks on churches yesterday, but it only got around 2 or 3 minutes of conversation before an all-out onslaught on obstruction of justice. Democrats are not taking impeachment off the table. And you know, oh, there's some things in this report that are very that are impeachable offenses. And when I go back and I think of it, and I sit there and say, well, the FBI did not, you know, put any charges on the president or whatever the case may be, or you know, the bottom line was collusion is what, you know, in my opinion, if President Trump did collude with a foreign power, and somehow that mixing of whether it be information, misinformation, or whatever the case may be, promises of you know, some lesser sanctions or anything like that, then yeah, I definitely feel that would have been an impeachable offense if that's what the report had found. But it's like now the report didn't find anything. So before you trusted the FBI and you said you're going to trust what Bob Mueller said, he said there wasn't anything. And he even said no American citizen did anything with the Russians. And it's like now we're stuck on, well, did he obstruct justice? And the obstruction part is the impeachable part. You see what I'm saying? Like it's just not going to stop. And it's like right now we're not talking about healthcare. Right now we're not even talking about border security / the wall. We're not talking about the 3-4 million DACA recipients. We're not talking about what's going on, like what happened to Iran. We're not talking about what's going on the Jerusalem and the Palestinian border, you know, the border, you know, on the border with Israel. And then meanwhile, gas prices are still going up. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not talking about any of this stuff. The only thing that seems to get attention, the only thing that our elected officials want to talk about is whether or not we should get this man out of office. And I'm like, you have to be able to move on, right?
They can't.
And the bottom line is they cannot move on from this guy, and the American public cannot move on from this guy because for some odd reason, I get it, you don't like the guy. That's fine. But this cannot be a precedent for the future. Because if some way, somehow, if they want to legitimize the president, all they have to do right now is to call for a vote of impeachment. And once again, it'll be about the same thing I believe that happened with Bill Clinton, where he gets impeached in one house, but then he doesn't get impeached in both. So it will just try to basically just delegitimize his presidency. And somebody can say, oh, well, he was impeached. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like at this point, but then the question is, when you say impeach for what, you're going to say obstruction of justice, because he tried to stop an investigation into his wrongdoing with the Russians. But we already know, based on that report, or we can already, you know, use the information in the report, if you believe it, that didn't happen. So my question is, if you don't believe the Mueller report and you still believe it happened, where are we going to start saying where our facts come from? You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah, somebody can say anything, and you can say, well, the FBI investigated and they said nothing happened. Like, for example, like even if we want to go back to Hillary Clinton's emails, right? And this is my question, right? If Trump, why doesn't Trump go back and now open up an investigation on her? He can do a Robert Mueller type person on Hillary. Why doesn't he do it? Because either A, it's not important to him, B, he's moved on past it, or something else. So these are the problems that I keep running into, because it is getting to a point where you can talk about the things that you care about, but you don't. You don't want criminal justice reform. You want less minorities going to jail. That's what you want. Because criminal justice reform can quote unquote fix the system, but if the crimes are still being committed, then what is the reform actually doing?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? It's like if I legalize marijuana, then it's not really criminal justice reform. It's just changing a law. And when I change that law, everyone who would have normally maybe been jailed because of that law will now no longer be jailed. It didn't really change the behavior. It didn't really reform the criminal justice system. It only basically changed the law that was causing a lot of people to go to jail, maybe. You see what I'm saying? So like these are the problems that I have when I want to have serious conversation about actually fixing some things. Because, you know, I would say I've been working with the school system lately, and I hate to say this, but the future is not looking that bright. It is what it is.
Yeah.
The people that I come in contact with, um, not all of them, but if these are the people that are supposed to lead us into the next great thing, I am completely terrified because my mind is blown every day when I come into contact with some of them because of the lack of discipline that is there, the lack of respect that is there, and like I said, these kids, they want to do whatever they want to do. So they have no respect for authority. Then the same thing is going to apply to the law, and then when it applies to the law, they're going to be like, "Oh, well, I don't care. Send me to jail." And then now you're another statistic. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you see the pattern already developing, but what can criminal justice reform do if the people who are going to be affected by it most are already kind of sort of setting themselves up where they don't respect authority, where they don't care? So I don't know, man. I've been, my outlook on things have kind of sort of dimmed a little bit because, you know, I was really hoping that once, you know, and let's just be honest, like not having a president under investigation, him not being a Russian quote unquote spy, or him not being a Russian operative, or someone who did the things that you've been saying he's been doing for the past 2 years, regardless of how you look at it, it's a good thing, right? It's supposed to be a good day. When the Mueller report came out and they said no Americans did anything with Russians to do anything, to influence, all that type of stuff, the FBI came out and said, you know, hey, none of this stuff, no American did anything. That should have been good news. But you won't take it as good news because you, I guess, at the end of the day, you wanted him to be guilty. And I say, if you wanted him to be guilty, I can understand you want him out of office, but why do he have to be guilty for you to have him out of office? The easiest way to get him out of office is just to vote in 2020. It's simple. But I feel like in the direction that it's heading now, the people on the right are just going to become further, you know, pushed further to the right. And then the people on the left are going to be pushed further down that track.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, we're going to have two very polarized ends of the country. And we're never going to be able to work together. We're never going to be able to have, kind of different people working together from different sides of the aisle because there is no political capital for doing it. There is no political like it doesn't benefit you to say, oh, I work with Democrats on this bill, or Democrats say, oh, well, I work with Republicans on it. It doesn't benefit them at all. It actually probably hurts them because how bad things are getting, the masses don't want their people to work with the other side because it feels like they're basically selling out. So, I mean, it to me, I am somewhat weary of 2020. And, you know, like I said, I remember I had talked and I had considered possibly running in 2020, but in the direction and the way things are going, like, I just keep trying to think, do I even want this headache? Do I even want this, do I want it? Because if I, let's say by some miracle I won. Now I'm on the national stage. Now I got cameras in my face. Now everything I do is under a microscope. Every single word I've said on this show is going to be going back, analyzing. You're going to go back and break down every single word that I possibly said on this podcast and anything I've ever done. Is it worth it when at the end of the day, the goal is not really to help people? The goal is not to change and actually make legislation that can make people's lives better. The goal is basically to win power and to hold that power. And that's basically all it is. There is no other way around it, right? Because I always find it funny when you hear politicians saying, oh, I think we need to create a law so that we can have term limits. Why do we need a law? Just step down. Don't run again.
It's like, do you really think a bill calling for term limits is really ever going to pass?
No, the same way.
Because the people it affects are the people who would need to pass it.
Right, but it's the same thing. Like they've never voted down a pay raise for Congress. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't vote down those as well. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like
it doesn't make any sense because like these people hold power and they are they are some of the richest people in the country.
Yeah, and that's just what I keep looking at. I mean, I just keep thinking, and the thing about it is the news is nonstop. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull this up on my phone real quick, and this is gonna be like the last thing I do for the night show, just to kind of prove a point, because I feel like we have gotten to a point where, like I said, it nothing matters. You know what I mean? So let me see. I'm going to go to. Let me see, go on my phone and news here. So if I click on news, let's see. All right, they've got a town hall with Elizabeth Warren. On MSNBC, it says, hold on, something about, let's see, on MSNBC, let's see, it says, are the Democrats overestimating political backlash of Clinton impeachment? And the name of the segment is called the Impeachment Debate. And then, like I've already said, what's his name is already talking about. CNN is having a live town hall with, I guess, the top 5 Democratic candidates, and apparently they got Elizabeth Warren on here, who I'm just trying to say, like, I mean, the left has to come better, because regardless of everybody wants to knock Trump. I mean, I thought in 2016 the choices were terrible, but you know, based on policy, he hasn't been a bad president, and nobody can deny that. But I mean, now they got Elizabeth Warren, and the question they're asking her is, do you have a plan to reform the Social Security system to increase its longevity? So I have no idea what she's talking about, but I'm pretty sure that she's going to be talking about how important it is to people who are retired and XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But that once again proves my point. If they weren't having this town hall, I guarantee you CNN would be talking about impeachment as well. So that's all we keep doing. We have all these different things going on, and we continue to kind of keep digging ourselves these holes. And what I tell people is, I'm not, and that's what I've said from the beginning, Trump doesn't scare me. Trump doesn't bother me. What bothers me is what comes next. And if somehow, some way, they find a way to impeach Trump, if somehow, some way, they find a way to, get this man out of office, right?
If they find a way to do that, then no one's safe.
But that's my whole thing. Like, it's not a good thing for him to be impeached for no reason at all. And if you're going to say, well, obstruction of justice, when a 2-year investigation already basically confirmed that there wasn't anything worth really talking about, you know what I'm saying? So once we've got that going on, I mean, it's a point where now we're just going to say, if we don't like the results of the election, So let's hypothetically, and I'll even say this right now. Let's say, all right, I'll ask you a question. Who do you think is the worst Democratic candidate right now? Who would you say, like, out of all these people, this is the person I want to see in office the least?
All of this, it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, is there like a least favorite on that whole totem pole? Though,
like do you mean who I think the weakest candidate, who I really do not want? And now
I'm talking about if there is like I said, if there is if the president election is tomorrow, and they announce the 20 the votes are in, and the 2020 president, the new president of the United States is whose name is being called that you dread the most?
Bernie Sanders.
Okay, so Bernie Sanders is elected president, and we're like, oh my God, here comes, like people say, here comes universal health care, here comes 70% taxes, here comes free college, here comes all the free stuff, here comes socialism, all the things people will be saying. Even if he tried to institute all of those programs, I would still not want them to impeach Bernie Sanders. Even though I disagree totally with a lot of the stuff he would try to put in. Let me tell you why. Because if he was voted in a legal election, then it is what it is at that point. I would not want him impeached just because I hate his policy and I don't like the dude. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like most people can't do the same thing. Most people can't say the same thing. They'll be like, well, I'd be fine with it. Then if you're fine with that, then you can't be fine if the Democrats decide to vote against impeachment on Trump. Because the other thing about it is all it would take to get Trump is still impeached is they just need to turn, 2 Republicans, right?
Yeah.
And we already know Lisa Murkowski's there. We already know Susan Collins is there. And they've done it before. So if they could get 2 Republicans to impeach Trump, it's over with. All they got to do is turn 2 in the Senate because they have the votes in the House to do it. If every single Democrat votes yes, they have the votes to get it done in the House. The question is, can they turn 2 Republicans to get them out of there? We'll find out.
I don't think they can.
I don't know. I mean, but you got to look at. you got to think about it. They voted against Kavanaugh, remember? So I mean, it could happen. And then there's also they got about 6 Republicans to go along with that kind of stopping that executive order to use the funds for the wall through some other type of account. So we've seen this happen before. So we will see how it all goes, and we'll watch and we'll see, because that's the other problem with doing a show like this, right? We need news. We need things to happen. We need stuff. But if all you're gonna do, I can't come on here every Monday and talk about obstruction of justice. I need other things to be happening. I need other politicians to come out, like, the Green Deal already got shut down. You know what I'm saying? So I need other politicians to come out with something else. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to start to discuss some other issues, but it's just like, if all you're going to do is give me impeachment and obstruction of justice, then it's just like, well, dang it, y'all are killing the show because you're shortening the amount of things that we can talk about. Because there's only so much you can talk about on this subject. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is good to be back. We will be back again next Monday at 8 p.m. I want to thank BJ once again for coming, for coming back and assisting with the show. Now, maybe the time that they have now will give us some time to start working on some of the other things that I've been trying to get into the works. So if they continue to talk about the Mueller report, if they continue to talk about we need to see the unredacted part, if they continue to speak about impeachment and obstruction of justice, then we will have to do a major shift. Because I think the way I look at it is politics are almost like religion, right? You're exposed to a lot of religions, but most of the people are pretty set in the type of faith that they're going to have. You have some people who used to be religious and no more and are no longer religious, and then you have people who get converted to something else. I don't believe conversion is going to be the route forward. I believe just opening up the conversation door is the way forward. And if we can make, and this might sound crazy, but if we can make somehow both parties better and more aware, then I'm perfectly fine with you, not, like you say, making a conversion, but can we put better Republicans in office?
Well, there's also another thing we should worry about. I think that is also one route we should go, but we should also think about changing the culture, because the culture is the reason why. Think about it. The Democrats, I think about liberals. They have Hollywood. They have the colleges. They have education.
That's cool.
They're the reason why there's so many of these people and why it's gone so crazy, because all people are listening to their ideas. They're not listening to our ideas. I think that's the like, instead of focusing on like short term like the president, we need to focus on long term like that.
Correct, and that's just my whole thing, and I think that's where the future is, on expanding conversation and actually like having a conversation. Because to me, the issues with our culture, the issues with our community, to me, it's not a partisan issue. Because I know a lot of people will make the, I mean, it's a weak Facebook argument, but it's like, oh, all the cities with bad schools and bad crime, they're all democratically held. And then I always say, well, if they all turn around and voted Republican the next election cycle, it wouldn't change the fact that the crime is still bad, the schools are still bad. It's not like all of a sudden a district's going to be turned from blue to red, and then all of a sudden the kids are going to be like, you know what? Now that it's a Republican district, I'm going to act right now. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we've got to actually attack what is the heart of the problem. And I think sometimes we make it seem like, even like, I mean, I know a lot of conservatives, we make it seem like if you're a conservative, you're supposed to be against big government, right? But when they make it seem like the big government is the problem in the House, I'm like, I'm not ready to buy that one yet. Because basically what you're saying is the Democratic big government won't help, is not helping. So what you need to do is you need to vote this way. And if you vote this way, that'll change all that bad stuff into good. And you'll just figure it out. And I'm like, I don't get that. I don't understand how you can feel like that's a valid argument. I get it. The statistics, you can pull any statistics to back up what you're saying, and you can say, well, Democrats have this city, the city has bad crime. Are you blaming the Democrats for that? Are you blaming? So like for example, right? John Lewis is the congressman over I believe the 5th district in Atlanta, in Georgia, right? Yeah. So if crime is bad in the 5th district, is that John Lewis's fault? If a guy decides to join a gang and that gang decides to sell drugs, that's John Lewis's fault?
No.
I'm starting to like, I get it. It's fun. It makes great Facebook. It's a great Facebook argument. And it's one of those where you can't really like defend it because it's true. But at the same time, it's like, so, okay, we just all decide we're going to vote John Lewis out. And we're going to put a Republican in John Lewis's district. Once again, does voting in John Smith Republican, do those kids now stop? Does that gang stop selling drugs now because now it's a red district? And you say, oh, well, there would be policy changes at the federal level, not the state level, at the federal level, right? that would automatically change that. I'm like, I don't see it. The problems I see, like, you know, one of the things I did agree with Barack Obama, the majority of these problems start at home. The majority of the problems that we have in this country, they all originate in the house. And that's because, yeah, I mean, we can do a whole show on what those problems are. But those gangs aren't going to stop selling drugs because they voted a Republican in office. That person who, you know, decided they wanted to kill this guy because whatever reason they decided they wanted to kill this guy. You know, I saw two students fight today over a cigarette lighter. Over a cigarette lighter. You know what I mean? Like they were actually, going at it hard over a cigarette lighter. What the hell does them fighting over a cigarette lighter got to do with whoever is politically in office? That stuff starts at the house.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where that culture change needs to start to come. A lot of people want to focus on the politics and those things like that. But I always say, as a conservative, I don't feel the government has that much power. They want that much power. And people can say, oh, well, the Democrats took the father out of home and blah, blah, blah. You know, the list of things that they can start to go down. And I can say,
it's still on those people who chose that life. The government didn't make them do all that.
Correct. You know what I'm saying? The same people who say the federal government flooded the black community with crack. Well, you still had to put it in a pipe and smoke it. But then, well, it's like people just want to keep making excuses for whatever type of point they're trying to make. So it's like I said, I get it, but at the same time, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense because you have people who buy into this nonsense, and you believe everything that your TV tells you, believe everything that your news station tells you, you believe everything that you want to believe because you don't, either you like the person or you dislike them. So, yeah, that's pretty much, the way things are headed right now. So, like I said, it's been good to take some time off and kind of get a recharge and kind of attack this thing as we're not in 2020 yet, but pretty soon we'll be having primaries coming up, and we'll be going to the voting booth again. And you gotta think about it. Next year, just think about this. Next year, we're gonna elect another president. I'm sorry, we're gonna vote on another president, and it hasn't seemed like a very long time since he got in office. You know what I mean? So.
Like he's been in office for a decade or something. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking like next year we'll be voting for another president. Like that's crazy to me. But it is what it is. And like I said, we will be back here next week to talk about the another topic next week. And based on some of these things that I've been noticing, in my interaction with the school system, we're going to discuss what can we do. Is there anything that we can do as individuals? Let's take the government out of it. Let's take politicians out of it. What can we do as individuals to start trying to fix some of these problems? And that's what we're going to discuss next week. So until next time, this has been Aftermath. I'm Saul G, and I will see everybody next Monday.
Y'all have a good night.